Your program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I am Sarah Higdon. I am your host. This is Transform to Freedom. It's Tuesday. It's not Monday. So normally, yes, if you are new to the show, we normally run this show on Monday, but obviously yesterday was a holiday, so I took off. And I actually went to Dragon Con here in Atlanta with my roommate. She had an extra ticket, so I went, checked things out. Never really been to a convention. It was cool. Maybe I'll go next year. I don't know. But yeah, so we did that. Went to dinner down in the city. And then just hung out. It was a good day. Hope y'all, if you're in the US, had a good time, visited with friends, family, relaxed on your day off. Or if you worked, I hope it was a productive day at work. So I understand that. Yeah, I don't know what it's like to really take holidays. I generally work just about every day, so it was different for me. But yeah, it was a good day. Starting the show, I definitely want to first and foremost, if you haven't seen, we lost two, I'm gonna say, legends in the music industry. So first, we lost Jimmy Buffett, who I love island music. I love Jimmy Buffett's music. And so that's a sad loss. I still haven't seen what he had passed away from, but I know that he was having health issues. He had canceled some, or they were rescheduling some of his shows, I think, earlier this year because he was in the hospital. And so obviously that's a sad thing. And then Smash Mouth frontman Steve Horwell passed away, I believe, yesterday, from I'm pretty sure they said liver disease. And he had talked about a lot about being an alcoholic for most of his life. And so I don't know. There's been some rumors going around. I'm not going to talk about other stuff, what he had said. But he was not doing well this weekend, and this news came yesterday. So prayers go out to their families, and Parrot Head Nation everywhere. It's a sad day Jimmy Buffett had, his fan base was, when you have a fan base that has their own name, I think that's iconic. So the Grateful Dead have the Deadheads, you have and you have Parrot Heads, and it's okay. So Courtney says Buffett had Merkel cell skin cancer. I didn't know that. A lot of time in the sun without sunscreen. So, okay. But moving on from that, let's get into this though, because I honestly, I thought about just doing a whole show called Trans Sanity Hour, because this week there was a lot of trans crazy nonsense out there. And so it would just made sense to call it the Trans Sanity Hour. But I don't want to spend too much time on all the trans stuff. Like I said, I could have made a full episode on this. So we're going to kind of go through some of these stories fairly quickly. Now, the first story on the docket is in Colorado. Now, a teachers union in Colorado instructed teachers to potentially break the law. So in Colorado, the school and honestly, they not just break the law, but disregard the school districts, um, their instructions to teach when it comes to teaching gender identity or taking surveys on children's quote unquote gender identity. So this is what happened in Colorado. For instance, Jefferson County, Colorado claimed that the school teachers were instructed on how to get around state and federal laws prohibiting schools from conducting surveys about students' gender identities. And the teachers union is the one that did that. So apparently, an email was sent to teachers from the union that said, if you do a questionnaire, please make it a paper and pencil activity. Any digital records are more permanent and may be requested under federal law, which they would be violating. Basically, yeah, it was this teachers union is supposed to have teachers' backs. Like they're supposed to negotiate on behalf of the teachers. So basically, they put all of these teachers' jobs. If you did this, your job is now in jeopardy because of your union that's supposed to be there to protect you. And then if you're breaking the law, it's not okay. One of the school board, and this is apparently, so the school board member told the news that the leadership actually provided an avenue to get around the law and basically said it was okay. She noted that the union, which is supposed to protect teachers instead of put them at risk of losing their jobs and license. I want parents to know the district takes this very seriously. Before the start of the school year, the district told all teachers that state and federal laws prohibit mandatory surveys that ask kids for protected information, sexuality, gender identity, and all other protected information. It's still I guess the state law is still not necessarily known, like what their left and right limits are. And so the school district said, just don't go there. Told the teachers, just don't go there. We're not going to deal with this. Don't go there. Like literally stated, please no preferred pronouns / gender identity questionnaires. Do not promise to keep information from parents. Told teachers this. And so with the teachers union just saying, if you're going to do them, just don't make it so that we can search that you did it. And of course, parents are angry. And one of the parents actually said, like, her daughter, who she said is a lesbian, and one of their nephews or something like that is trans, was like, basically, like, I feel deceived and lied to, taken advantage of. Because she found out because her son brought home one of these questionnaires that asked about his gender identity. And it's like, that's it's such a no thing to do. Like, why would you do this? Why? And the union president basically didn't when asked about it, didn't say anything. It was basically like, by allowing students to like basically disagreeing with the law, but it's the law. It's not your responsibility to tell parents or tell teachers to disregard what the law is saying in this aspect. Just don't do it. And not even just the law, but again, it's the local school board. So basically they're telling teachers that your school board means nothing. We are, that it's it, I mean, she said we encourage and support educators to follow the Jefferson County's district policy, which states school staff shall not disclose information that sorry. But she said like they support the policy that says that the school staff should not disclose information that may reveal a student's gender status to others, including parents. So they respect that rule, but they don't respect the rules that say don't do these surveys. And this is the issue. I mean, this is why teachers unions, public employee unions are garbage. They are pushing far left woke policies, and then they fight, and then there's a huge reason why they actually fight like school choice initiatives, because if you get out of if they would, they are not teaching your kids, they are there to indoctrinate your kids into this. But it's just so it is yes, Jen, it's violating, it violates parental rights. Like, parents sent their kids to this school because the kids said, no, we're not going to do, the school said, no, we're not going to do this. And then all of a sudden teachers are going behind the backs, like doing what they're not supposed to do. And the union is pushing it. Not just like the union should not, I mean, the union should be in lockstep with the school on this. They should be protecting their teachers. The school board is trying to protect their teachers. Like, just don't go there. We don't know exactly if you would be breaking the law. Just don't go there. And so these surveys are why I just don't even understand why it's even relevant. Like, why does a teacher need to know the sexuality of students or the gender identity of students? Why is that any of their business? Like, if an adult is asking a child what their sexuality is, that is a red flag. I'm sorry. That's a huge red flag. I don't know what else to call it, Like, if you even care about a child's sexuality, there's something else going on. Okay? I I don't know what else to call it. So this was a crazy situation though. But you want to talk about teachers even more? I mean, we can move right along to our Transanity train right here. So we can move to the infamous shop teacher in Canada. With that showed up actually here with the massive prosthetic breasts. That there was this huge thing that he was basically trolling like everybody. He was trying to get the payout, trying to self ID into the trans category, and doing it in such a way that if that he knew that he would be fired over it and then get the massive payout, because that's the way it works in Canada. It's like you can self ID anywhere and they have to believe it. But he went like deep. He was like, no, they're real. Like they came on naturally. It was this it was like this rare disease or something like that did this, and showed up to school this year fully male, just like this. Now here's the problem. Like I said, I think he was doing this to show. I think he was doing it for a few reasons. He was probably doing it again to get the payday, possibly to show the absurdity of self-ID laws in Canada and how if you bend to them. But somebody made a really good point to me the other day though, like, you know, with like the movie with the movie Cuties, the movie sexualized children to show how wrong it is to sexualize children, um, which is not good either. And so basically exposing children and doing this was not the way to go about this. It's harmful. not just harmful to children, it's harmful to trans people that just want to go about and live their lives because you're making a mockery of somebody like me who just wants to go and live my life peacefully and not really, I'm not trying to stand out into society. I'm trying to blend into society. And so by going and being like, this is absurd, we're gonna go do this, this, and this, it hurts all trans people. So I don't think that this was a good thing. But I did laugh when I saw that he went to school fully male. I'm like, oh man. It was interesting, but yeah, there's even more. It, I don't even know, how could you even do this? No, you're right. You're right, Courtney. I mean, yes, the trans movement in general is a mockery of people like you. I hope it stops soon. Me too. Me too. One of the reasons why I'm out here daily is just to show that, like, no, we're not these crazy people. Like, this isn't even average. Like I said, I always say, you guys have probably heard me say this 1,000 times. Like, the internet, really, it's not real. It just highlights the most extreme cases on both sides. And so when you see the trans community, it's the extremes. And one of the other problems with the internet is people will pull videos from 2-3 weeks ago, years ago. I mean, I've seen people that I know I know them that have completely changed their views on stuff. Like they went viral for being one of these crazy trans people, and then they've come around to our side and are actually fighting against this, but yet the video of them going crazy are still being shown online as if it's like news today. That's a huge pet peeve of mine, is when I see news being regurgitated. And the problem is like now we have like such a mind of a goldfish that uh we forget stuff that happened 2 weeks ago. So a video can be replayed from 2 weeks ago with basically false information, and everybody just takes it at face value because nobody fact checks anything. That's just I wish that people would take a little bit more care. I think community notes would be good. I just think that there needs to be community notes on Twitter needs to be revamped to be like quicker. Like we can like send, like when we can just like have a quick report button to where when somebody reports community notes, I don't like, personally, I don't like reporting tweets, but I'll report it and put additional comments in there and be like, I don't want this post deleted. I just want, a community notes added to it. And since I got shadow banned for using the T slur a few weeks ago, I actually found out I'm not eligible for community notes because I called myself the T word, and that got censored. So I'm not allowed to be community notes writer right now, which would be the perfect job for me because, like I said, this stuff gets to me. But yeah, so I again, another big rant there, but I think that it doesn't help anything, but it is kind of hilarious because they were warning that this person had got a job, and the school was actually expecting him to show up, and there'd be a huge media kerfuffle about it because of the huge boobs and everything like that, and then shows up like this, and it's like, wait a second, what? Like, and so there's a public attention because he didn't show up like that. It's kind of ironic, in my opinion. Wait. I'm sorry. I'm reading back some of the comments. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Courtney here. I will read back those later, but Wow. No, 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 don't don't be sorry. I was like, I started to get wrapped up into what you guys were saying in the chat, and it kind of derailed what I was saying here. So I'm sorry to y'all, um, because of the chat. So, moving on to the next story. Actually, this wasn't the next story, was it? I thought there was one more. Oh no, it's still trans sanity. This one's not really trans sanity. This one's more just again the sexualization of children. Looking at um, so there's an Oregon store that is selling genital-shaped plushies to children. Um, and actually, yeah, I actually love that y'all are so like in the chat and communicating with each other. I need to get used to that aspect of this and what's directed to me and what's directed to each other. So that's actually me. I actually like that you guys are building the community around this. So but yes, so Oregon is okay, that's um yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Oregon store selling these things. And if you look at these, like what? Again, like who who's buying this stuff? Who's buying plush toys that look like genitals? I, I mean, this is stuff that like children that's the whole point is like children would do this stuff. Yeah, Jen, Oregon is like lost. Like Oregon, Washington, California, they can just like fall off the coast. Like they could just like break away. That would be nice. And then like the other states that are not this crazy can do this. The worst part about this though, and it's for kids. Um, the owner is very proud of it, especially when kids pick up the clitoris plushie and read the information card about it. And actually, so this is an interesting picture. You see, she was, and it's actually in the front on the top here. You can see what type of person she is. The America was never great shirt that she's wearing. Yeah, that kind of tells you exactly who she is. She's a full blown lefty who hates this country. Maybe she should leave. I don't know. If you don't, if you don't think that this is a great country, then why are you here? Why don't you go to a country that you do think is great? I don't know. I don't have a lot of time for that stuff. I understand trying to make your country better. But to say it was never great, that irritates me. But that's not even the worst part about this woman. Um, in one post she says, "So what? So what? Or so what? A kid grabs stuffed testicles and reads the information card about what testicle does. The horror. How dare we want our kids educated on the human body, but rest assured they've never had a problem with me. My shop, heck, they even refer their customers here, stuffed penises and all. But now it's a problem. It's a problem. It's just a problem. Like the people who are sending their customers there, that's a problem too. Okay, like, but that's again, this is the way that it is. Like, this is the free market here is at work. Um, People should be outraged at this stuff. I'm not gonna have the government come in and shut this down. I don't think kids should be going in there though, and I think that it should be labeled as 21 and over, 18, not 21 and over, say at least 16 and over. Um, but I don't get it. So this other person had said in a Facebook post, so I popped in a store today while waiting on another to open, couldn't believe what it was actually seeing. It was gonna make a purchase until I seen what they had on the counter. When I went to pay, I then told her, "Nope, changed my mind. I will not be purchasing anything. Please tell me who is gonna buy their child a stuffed penis, let alone all the other organs but a penis." Yeah, that's what you do. You tell them that you don't like it and you're leaving. Just not not doing it, not supporting anything. Not because again, you could disagree with this and then buy something else, but you're still supporting the business. Okay. Just don't. Just don't go there. Yeah. Courtney, you're right. Like Courtney said, now I see why kids are having a severe mental health crisis now. Given all that research, decades show sexualizing kids causes severe trauma. Yeah. Kids should be kids, right? Like we should just let them grow up and deal with this stuff naturally and not push it on them. Like who's buying this stuff for their kids? It's not just it's this is the thing is it's not just the shop owner that we should be like condemning. It's the people who are buying this stuff for their kids. Who's doing that? Because there has to be a demand for it. If there's not a demand for it, she wouldn't sell it. And if she didn't sell it, we wouldn't have an issue. So where's the demand? And actually, who's manufacturing this stuff? Like, she's not hand making this stuff. So who's even manufacturing this stuff? Like, this is a whole chain of events that needs to be looked into. You know, I, I don't get this, but again, this isn't even the worst about this woman who owns this business. Um, Katie Davis Court with the Post Millennial when she was writing this story. I was actually on the desk with her this day on I think this was Sunday when she did this. Yeah, she posted some videos, and I advise when she posted the link to her Instagram account to our channel our company channel. I clicked on it, and I wish I didn't. Don't go to her Instagram channel. It is disgusting. And she has an OnlyFans account. Think about that. She has an OnlyFans account. Like, this is the woman. This is her Instagram account. And she's advertising her OnlyFans account. And she's selling stuffed plushies to children. Like, this is, territory that we really probably can't go into on YouTube. Like, seriously. What the fuck? Now this is actually there's another store that lives a TikTok. It might even be in Portland. I have the information. I was gonna do a video on it a couple months ago, and I was waiting for more information from somebody that was on the inside. And this is actually way back when in my Gays Against Groomers days, I was working with their team over there who knew the person that was on the inside. But they like teach classes on this stuff to like teenagers and all that. And like this woman owned it, not this woman that I'm talking about here, but this other person, I think it was either in Seattle or Portland, I believe, but owned like a sex shop, like it was like a classy sex shop though. Like it looked like nice displays and everything like that. And um, they had like, yeah, like classes that were like, it was like all ages or something like that. I'll have to go dig back into what that story was all about. Um, but it was so bad. Like like I said, I was going to do a lot of content on it. But I was trying to get more information. But they were like, it had been brought. Libs at TikTok had done it like 2 years. Had said something about it like a year and a half ago, or like 2 years ago, or something like that. And they were still doing these events. So it's just, yeah, that coast needs to go. I know there's a lot of talk of national divorce and it would never happen, which I can see. I know why it would never happen, but we need to like cut California like in half. Why not just give like the top portion of California and like that to and like Portland so yeah, Washington, Oregon, just cut it off. Let it float away. I I know you can't cut off. I know it won't float away just for monitoring purposes. I get it. That was a joke. Um, but yeah, don't go don't go to her Instagram account. I'm warning you. Like it's not a pretty sight. So yeah. But this actually leads to the next story where the tech the tech magazine Wired said the quiet part out loud. They said why all of this stuff is happening, why the sexualization of children is happening. They're basically saying all this, like they're saying it the quiet part out loud. It's exactly what we've been talking about. It's to destroy the nuclear family. Like it's all critical theory. It's postmodern neo-Marxism, and how we destroy. Like I said, it's like it's all the basis of critical theory, and this magazine is pushing it. And so it's a tech magazine, and they're talking about why it is immoral to want biological children. Not immoral to have children, but to want biological children. One of the things that they say, because it pushes back against the biological essentialism built into white supremacy. So wanting biological children is a sign of white supremacy. Did you know that? That's what they said. That's what they're saying. They're saying that it's white supremacy. They also talked about gestational surrogacy, which if you've been following me long enough, I don't agree with surrogacy. I think that surrogacy is immoral. Um, I used to be okay. I used to be for it actually. I still think that what a woman does with her body consensually is her choice. I just don't think it's a good moral thing, because it really does allow people to rent the womb of a woman. It causes all these different issues, and I just don't think that surrogacy is a good thing. But still, I don't think it should necessarily be illegal, because again, it's what somebody does consents to is their choice. And there's so many more. I think that adoption is a much better option. There's enough kids that need to be adopted. So yeah. And so it talked a little bit about surrogacy. And it talked even about what did it say? Yeah, so here talking about the renting of the womb, but then it started talking about like the ability to screen embryos. And ironically, it talked about how eugenics has played is such a bad thing, but then it basically advocated for eugenics when going down to the embryo level. So you can go into an embryo and screen for different genes that would say, not have certain diseases and all this stuff, which is it's basically eugenics. And one of the reasons, and this kind of goes into, you know, um, genetic screening. One of the reasons why they went away from, like, they stopped looking for what they call like the gay gene, was because they thought that if parents could could know that their child could screen for it and know that their child was going to be gay, then they could have an abortion. That's wrong. It's morally wrong, because we don't think that there's any, there's nothing wrong with being gay. And so they stopped even looking for that to see if, you were born, like if there was a genetic component to being gay. It's playing a lot into the trans movement, but now now the left is saying that this is a good thing. You can screen for this stuff. You can screen for different things, and we can basically eradicate different diseases. Think about that for a second. It's so basically talking about, again, eugenics. I it's not a good thing, but even going further into it, um, so yeah, even going into it though, it's weird though because the whole issue of like white supremacy and stuff, it says sharing genetics is less critical to black identity than it is to white identity. The notion of racial purity is foreign to black folk, is what the article says. Um, and that the notion of having biological children is built into white supremacy to pass your genes on to somebody else because you consider the and I and because you consider them quote unquote pure. Um, but when we talk about it, like this is what we've kind of talked about quite a bit. Like it says it, he noted, we should hope to witness a broader acceptance of non-traditional, non-nuclear family structures, which is kind of causing there's a lot of issues with not, with the non-nuclear family structures trying to dismantle that. It's caused a lot of issues in our society trying to dismantle that. And then the other thing it mentions is that as people, as some parents who only want to have biological children start to reevaluate their desire, like if they're not allowed to have biological children, then they will reevaluate their desire to be parents at all in the long term, which will aid in depopulation. And we've been talking for quite a while about the issues of depopulation, why like they're sterilizing children through, you know, by transing them, why they're trying to do that, why they're trying to yeah, why you're trying to depopulate people. Like the whole like transing kids could have a huge effect on depopulation, which is something that the World Economic Forum wants in its Agenda 2030. So he just basically says it right out loud, like this would aid in that. Yeah, what about yeah, Jen says, what about nuclear families outside of white people that exist? It's a good point. They don't really care that about nuclear families. Um, I don't know. I think that they're, it leads down a very different road. Um, yeah. So, but it just kind of comes around and says, we will finally come to realize that our relationships with each other are not defined by our rudimentary mechanism desire to pass on our own genes, but rather our capacity for love and care. Look, it's not wrong to want your own biological children. I think it makes sense if you can have your own biological children. What it didn't, I think, what's interesting is it doesn't really go into like if you don't know the family history of a child's, health, then you don't know what they should be taking precautions on and all that stuff. Like talking like if your family has, is prone to diabetes, you probably shouldn't eat a lot of sugar. You should probably not do that. But if you don't know what your family history is, then how are you gonna, prevent some of these health issues that you could have? I don't know. People are weird. They want people sick and dead, and they want them sterilized. I feel like this is actually where's my tinfoil hat? Let's put it on. I feel like this is leading down to a road where, and we've already seen the stuff, like, leading down the road to children will be born and what is it, grown in, like, baby farms where you can just go, like, buy the child. Where's the people from Black Mirror? I have a new episode, but, like, yeah, like, baby farms to where people would just go buy the children that they want with the genetics that they want, because nobody's having biological children, and then that it really is like the Handmaid's Tale. What is it? Yeah, Handmaid's Tale. The where it's like, but instead of having, like, women carry these babies, they just grow them in a lab. I feel like that's what this is. That's what this is leading to, and it makes sense coming from a tech magazine that they would want lab-grown babies. Again, it's a tech magazine who would be selling this stuff. It's sick and disgusting, and we're gonna move on. So, yeah. We're moving on to something that's not so sick and disgusting. We're talking about Burning Man, okay? So yeah, there's a lot that was talked about. If you hadn't seen, so Burning Man is a festival. If you don't know what Burning Man is, a festival in was it Black Rock City, Nevada, which is basically a desert. And the ground is what's called, it's the playa, which I believe is it's like an old lake bed. And so, like, it rained in the desert and caused all these issues. So if you didn't see some of this stuff, here's one of the videos.
It is soaking wet here at Burning Man. Look at this water. But over here is a double rainbow. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that rainbow.
And this guy was pretty cool, actually. It's so it's interesting because listen to what he says, though.
Drowning Man update. We got 3/4 of an inch of rain.
Travel is impossible.
And there's about 70,000 people stranded on a barren lake bed. But fortunately, burners are badass and brought all the supplies we need. Or most of us.
We got people who came by bus camped on the edge of the city.
They're in pop-up tents and at risk of getting hypothermia. But we don't need outside help. We're going to bind together,
Get radically self-reliant, dry out the furniture.
and keep the party going. The alternative is to fall into despair, roll over, and die. And we all have a choice in how we're going to handle this. So everyone open up your Starlink satellites so people can communicate with their families. Make an expedition to the edge of the city with food and water. And don't fight anybody because we're all in this together. Bury those negative thoughts in gratitude for your life because a couple people didn't make it last night. And know that we're all going to clean up this mess and get out of here. This is the hand we were dealt this year, and together we're going to get through it.
The nonchalant way to say some people didn't make it last night, but we're gonna get through it. It's interesting. Now, I will preface this. Burning Man is actually on one of my is on my bucket list. I want to go. Me and some friends have been trying to make plans to get ready to go and all this. I was actually just looking at the website like 2 months ago. but it just wasn't in the cards this year. But it is a place and I'm glad it wasn't in the cards. At first I was like, I'm glad it wasn't in the cards that this is the year that I would have gone to Burning Man, and this is what happens. But I mean, I've lived in stuff like this when I was in the Army and like when I was in Louisiana and stuff. So I've lived through stuff like this, but with better vehicles and all that, right? But walking through mud and all that, it's not fun. But I was thinking about this. I'm like, if you know how like burns work, it's like you have the main festival acts, like the main DJs and stuff. They got out of there. They didn't stick around, right? But yeah, they didn't stick around, and so they then but the way that they work is like this is a city built, like the participants build this city every year. And so it's whatever they make of it, other than just like the few stages and stuff like for the main acts and like that. And so you go these like smaller DJs have like their equipment all set up in their like by their tent areas or in their camp areas, and a lot of these people have like different groups that they go with, so they've been playing this to go with this stuff. And so I still thought that they would still be partying in the mud, which I'll show you here in a little bit too. But it was interesting. But then he was like just nonchalantly like, yeah, some didn't make it last night. Now the event organizer, that's what this article was about, is they confirmed that there was a death on Saturday night at Burning Man. Don't know what it was from. Don't know if it was the rain event, but it happened during the rain. But again, it's a festival where a lot of people are doing drugs and are usually very, very dehydrated and can get very dehydrated because they're not drinking enough water. They're doing ecstasy and they're not drinking enough water, all this different stuff, right? And so they didn't actually disclose who it was or what the issue there was, but there was a death on Saturday at Burning Man. It was kind of interesting because I actually think we covered what last week, the environmental activist that were blocking the road to Burning Man. So it went like this year, it's been all over the news because environmental activists blocked the road on the way in, and then they burned an effigy for Ukraine, which I think is down here. It went from this. So it went from that to then they burned an effigy for the Ukraine war, and then they get rained out, and things are going crazy there. This is Diplo, and if you don't know Diplo is a pretty well-known DJ. I think he was playing there, but could you imagine that him and Chris Rock walked miles, and then fans picked him up? Like, could you imagine being the fans and being like, "Oh my god!" Like, "Hey, can you give us a ride?" Be like, "You're Chris Rock and Diplo." Of course, you can have a ride. So they hop a ride with the fans. Like, it's completely crazy. Now, I do want to give a quick shout out to my friend who I was actually trying to contact. My friend Gloria Alvarez, who I met at Freedom Fest. She is running for the president of Guatemala. She lives in Mexico. We were talking about Burning Man when we were together in Memphis this year, and so I was like, "Wait, are you at Burning Man?" And she posted this yesterday, and so this is what it's really like, not what the news is actually reporting on.
Man, from Land of Monkey 7NG, we even have food. It's amazing. That's Marcelo over there. Mexico represented. This is the amazing dinner that we're having in Apocalypse. Thanks to these guys. Thank you, guys. It's an amazing, amazing dinner. The sun came out. Ahí está Roberto. Ahí está Richo. Todos sobreviviendo. Nuestro gran líder que no se ha ido. Y nuestra lideresa. Exacto. Y no se hundió. 8 de la noche, sábado 2 de septiembre del 2023 desde Burning Man. Ya después de que logramos controlar el camp, salimos a ver un poquito la ciudad. Hay mucha gente haciendo buena onda. Fiesta. Para todos esos de Fox News que decían que estábamos sin comida, sin agua. Ok, esto es desde Burning Man, no en vivo porque no tenemos internet, pero para toda la gente que allá afuera se está preguntando. Y mientras hay gente que está perdiendo la cabeza, otros se pusieron bien creativos con la cabeza de Quetzalcóatl.
So yeah, it's not as doom and gloom as everybody's making it out to be. It looks like it was actually could have been a good time. It's one of the ones that you'll talk about forever. And yeah, Robbie Gloria is the GOAT. I love her. She is amazing. I met her. Yeah, like I said, I've met her. She's so fun. Actually, if you look at my Instagram, you'll see we had a picture of me, her, and Martha Bueno from Freedom Fest. Yeah, Magnificent Devil. I did hear that the porta potties overflowed, and I could see that happening. Yeah, because well, who's gonna come service the porta potties? But here again, I was in the Army. I know how to dig a slit trench. How to utilize the environment. I would just stay away from the porta potties from getting sick from going over there, right? So, I mean, there's things you can do. A lot of people, and it's worse if you're staying in like tents and stuff. I know a lot of people would be going into a lot of people stay in RVs and stuff. And like when me and my friends have planned to go, we've talked about getting RV and having that set up. I talked about but still talked about like the water for like showers and toilets would not be used for showers and toilets. It would actually be like certified like drinking water. So you don't dehydrate. So you actually have a good system of like good water system to where you can just stay hydrated. It's like a big water buffalo. It's what I would do. But yeah, I did hear that too. But there's ways around it. And that's the thing about Burning Man is I thought it was kind of interesting because like one of their tenets is to leave the place better than when you got there. And so like the whole idea that environmental activists were protesting was kind of hilarious because like the people that go to Burning Man are probably super environmentally conscious people. Like a lot of people were calling them hippies online, but yeah, maybe. It's mostly ravers though, like ravers and I guess hippies, but I know a lot of people that go to Burns, so it looked fun. But talking about getting sick, I don't know if I can talk about this. We're just gonna try it on YouTube today though. We're gonna see because this is CNN. This is CNN. I want to start this segment and say that I am not a doctor. Not giving you health advice. I'm just showing you what happened. Make that clear. But CNN, what is going on? Like even CNN is pushing back on Dr. Fauci about masks when it comes to the spread of COVID. So this week on CNN, I'll just play the clip.
Brett Steubens in the Times talked about Cochrane. Put that on the screen. the most rigorous and comprehensive analysis of scientific studies conducted on the efficacy of masks for reducing the spread of respiratory illness, including COVID-19, was published last month. Its conclusions, said Tom Jefferson, the Oxford epidemiologist who is the lead author, were unambiguous. There is just no evidence that masks, make any difference, he told the journalist Mayan Demasi, full stop. But wait, hold on. What about the N95 masks as opposed to the lower quality surgical or cloth masks? Makes no difference. None of it, he said. Well, what about the studies that initially persuaded policymakers to impose mask mandates? They were convinced by non-randomized studies, flawed observational studies. How do we get beyond that finding of that particular review?
Yeah, but there are other studies, Michael, that show at an individual level for individual, when you're talking about the effect on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, the data are less strong.
So if the data was less strong, then why did we have mask mandates for everybody? I don't see how that makes sense. Question, like, how does Fauci say that it works for individuals but not for the overall population? If it doesn't work for individuals, how does it? Yeah, I don't get that, because the whole point is that the mask is too small to block the particles. The particles will just go right through. Will go through the mask. It's kind of crazy. And actually, do I have this clip? No, I don't think I do. But remember, this isn't the first time that we've known that Fauci has said this type of stuff, said that masks don't really work. So in 2021, there was a FOIA request that a former Obama administration Secretary of Health and Human Services, Sylvia Burwell, asked him about precautions she should take while traveling. I believe this was in 2021. And Fauci said in an email back to her, said, masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. The typical mask you buy in drugstores is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. I don't recommend that you wear a mask, particularly since you are going to a very low risk location. He recommended that this person didn't wear a mask, and then recommended to the entire country that we do. Like, it makes no sense. And actually, this is why I'm so I'm concerned, because Rand Paul was given a 10-day or a 7-day suspension on YouTube in August 2021, about the same time as that, that FOIA request came out, for posting a video that said, and I quote, I'm quoting Senator Rand Paul, YouTube, a video that quotes 2 peer-reviewed articles saying cloth masks don't work. That's what he said, or he quoted the peer-reviewed studies and got a 7-day suspension for it. So again, what's going on? It's really, CNN has really kind of started taking to the Biden administration on this too. It's really kind of a crazy situation that's going on. But I guess what Fauci's trying to say, and we'll kind of bring this into perspective, I guess he's trying to say that the reason why is because during the height of COVID, everybody was assumed to have COVID. Even if you didn't have symptoms, you were considered to have COVID. So we need to scare everybody and make everybody wear a mask, because then it will help prevent the spread. But then it didn't. According to the studies, it really didn't do much to as a whole. On the individual level, it does, which I don't see how that makes sense at all. It's just a weird way of saying it. But later on in the interview, Fauci actually said he's concerned that now Americans are not going to accept their tyranny. Those are my words, not his, to clarify. Americans will reject mask mandates now, and so that concerns him. So this is what he said later on in the episode. Actually, is that pulled up? Yeah, I think it is.
Nice to have you back. How worried are you that people will not follow advice to wear masks if we get to that?
Well, Michael, that's a very good question. As you said, if we get to that, I mean, we're starting to see a surge of cases, as you mentioned, about an 18 or 19% increase in hospitalizations, certainly going in the wrong direction with looks like a late summer and into the fall surge. How bad it's going to get, we don't know. As you know, this is a very unpredictable virus, has shown us that over the last 3.5 years. I am concerned that people will not abide by recommendations. And we're not talking about mandates or forcing anybody, but when you have a situation where the volume of cases in society gets to a reasonably high level, particularly the vulnerable, those who are elderly and those with underlying conditions, are going to be more susceptible and vulnerable if they do get infected to get severe disease leading to hospitalization. We know that. That's a fact. We've seen that. So I would hope that if in fact we get to the point where the volume of cases is such and organizations like the CDC recommend, CDC doesn't mandate anything, I mean, recommends that people wear masks, I would hope that they abide by the recommendation and take into account the risk to themselves.
The CDC doesn't mandate anything. Right. That's why they were having people removed from Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. All these organizations, when they would for misinformation, they're not mandating it, but they're having accounts removed. They're threatening businesses who stayed open. Basically, they locked the entire country down off of these recommendations. They told businesses that they should have people wear masks inside of them. So yeah, they didn't mandate anything. Come on now. And this also comes as, again, we talked about it last week. President Biden had said that there is a new vaccine on the way that they are most likely going to recommend, a new vaccine that works, that they are going to most likely recommend whether you've had a vaccine or not. And I think I saw somewhere too this week, and I don't want to I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this week they said this new strand of COVID actually affects people who had the vaccine or who have had COVID more. So if you never had the vaccine and you never had COVID, so you don't have any antibodies to it, this new one doesn't affect you. It's not as contagious to you. Again, that's what I think I read. I don't want to say that is the truth. I didn't really dig too deep into it, but I think that's what it said. You can go look that up yourself. But yeah. I got one more story if you guys are going to stick around too. So I actually asked a question on Twitter. Still calling it Twitter because I haven't gotten my subscriptions yet. Asked a question on Twitter. Are we in a Cold War with Mexico? It kind of seems like it. So back in 2014, there was 42 college students disappeared in like one of the southern portions of Mexico. And it wasn't until this year that the US, so crazy story, and I would actually go recommend. I wrote there. It's on Human Events. If you go under humanevents.com/Sarah or /author/Sarah, you can actually see this was one of the last ones that I did for Human Events. But if you go over there, I do recommend reading the whole story because it is wild. So the U.S. was wiretapped the cartels in this area because they believe that they were linked to drug trafficking into Chicago. Again, so the U.S. has had these text messages since 2014, but they just released them to the Mexican government this year. These text messages actually show that, so through their wiretaps, it shows traffickers calling them military whores who they had in the bag. Basically, it shows that their cartel was getting increasingly worried about its rivals moving into their territory. And so when they saw this bus full of students getting ready to leave, they thought it was their rivals, and so they ordered the the police. So the police shot at this bus and then abducted all the 43. They abducted the 43 students. And then there was text messages from the cartels. Like, then they handed them off to the cartel. The cartel then incinerated their bodies in the so the morgue, the person at the morgue allows them to use the cremator when they want to make people disappear, and so they did that here. And these documents actually show, military documents show the organization knew about the cartel, like they all knew, the police and everybody knew about the cartel's plan. Like, their military they knew, but they didn't intervene. I mean, Mexico, it just showed. And then, like, the U.S. said that they didn't give these documents to Mexico because they believe that Mexico is corrupt. And so, like, one of the students said they had all this information, but they hid it. Instead of looking for our children or telling us the truth, they protected themselves, and that's talking about the Mexican military. Even the Mexican president said in July that one cannot stain an entire institution because of the actions of one official. Yeah, so the U.S. DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, collected the conversations in 2014 while investigating the cartel's involvement in trafficking drugs to Chicago. An investigator said it delayed handing over the information until last year because of distrust in the Mexican government. Like, basically, yeah, one person that escaped, one prosecutor from Mexico who escaped to the U.S. said this, like, it shows that the collusion that was happening, that he was trying to stop from happening between the cartels operating and the connection it has to authorities, including the army. So, I mean, I don't know. I look at this and be like, why are we, God, are we in a Cold War with Mexico? I don't know. This is great. Like, if we're not turning over text messages that could lead to that prove, like, what happened during a murder, like a murder of 43 people because of, crime, like a crime organization there. Like, they could take those criminals off the street there so that they're not able to traffic drugs to the U.S. I don't get it. I don't get why, like, if we're not in a Cold War, why would we? It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, they talked about different code words that they use. They called the city councilor a whore. So basically, anybody who was taking money from the cartels was a whore, because they wanted to ask, they were asking for too much money. But a lot of the communication was between police and cartel members. So there's a lot of corruption in Mexico. This shows it, and maybe they'll finally, be able to put together a lot of pieces. But this was an interesting article, and I mean, like I said, this was the New York Times piece for it was like 3,000 words, so it's a long read, and it's but it's really, you want to talk about true crime. It's just crazy, and the cover up with it is even crazier. But yeah. But with that, went about 10 minutes over today. It's a good episode. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, Sarah Higdon _ on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Rumble and on YouTube, and just I think everywhere else. I think I don't know. I'm on Facebook, but I'm like never on there. Just follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.